India's budget with the country's Minister for Railways, Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnaw. He joins us live from New Delhi. Minister, good to have you with us. We've seen a boost in capital expenditure. Is this about trying to lure more foreign companies, boost investment in the country the way Apple has done?
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot for having me here. This budget for the fiscal 23-24 has consistently increased the capex, capital investment. See, when the pandemic hit India and the world, the choices that people made all the difference in the outcomes. The choice that India made was, instead of focusing too much on consumption expenditure, India had a very balanced view where for the most vulnerable sections, there was a focused consumption spending, for example, giving free food grains to about 800 million people, giving free vaccination program. And there was a big boost on the infrastructure spending side because all the investment that you put in transportation, investment that you put in laying new fibers, all that stuff basically increases the productivity of the country, and that lays the foundation for a sustainable growth. And that's the reason why India is today having good, consistent 7% growth. And I can see after yesterday's budget, next year's growth will also be somewhere between 6.5 and 7.3%. So, and a very moderate. India's inflation has been traditionally between 4 to 7%. So we are right now, the latest print is about 5.8%. So that's a very good combination of high growth and moderate inflation.
Minister, in your view, which industries, which sectors will benefit most from yesterday's budget?
So quite a few. If you see when infrastructure spending happens in an economy, if you run the entire cycle, the initial boost comes to the construction equipment, construction material, to the construction companies, and then it starts spreading out to a broader economy. So, for example, when the first capex cycle started in the budget of FY 21-22, in that capex cycle, it was 5.5 trillion rupees. The impact of that is now being felt in the four-wheeler market, in the passenger vehicle market, in the housing market, in consumers, in consumer goods. So basically, in my assessment, while there would be very big focus on some of the industries which are directly connected with railways, with highways, with telecom, with power grid, with the ports, with construction, there would also be a broader demand growth across the economy.
Minister, did you, with your rather wide portfolio, get what you wanted from the Finance Minister?
Of course, and I thank the Finance Minister and Honourable Prime Minister for this. Railways, for example, is one of the most important sectors in the country's economy. Last year, in the current fiscal, which is FY23, we are clocking about 25 billion capital investment this year, and that has really helped us. Just about 10 years back, Railways was laying just about 4 kilometers a day new railway lines. This year we are doing about 12 kilometers a day new railway lines. We have in the last 8 years electrified 33,000 kilometers of railway lines, which is more than what was done in the last 60 years. It's a very big shift towards green transportation, towards green economy, towards green growth. And this year, the capital investment is 30 billion. In this budget. So for the next fiscal, the capital investment is 30 billion. And we are on track to complete it in the, last year also when the capital investment targets were put at a very good level, very high level, there was quite a lot of opposition, the political opposition, and many commentators thought that no, there will be a big execution risk. But I can see that last year's capital investment at the national level and within, let's say, railway and highways, it has been completely achieved.
Minister.
And today, countries' capacity to construct, countries' capacity to execute has significantly improved. So we are on track for achieving the latest target.
Minister, if you can have a degree of brevity, let me just ask you about this whole semiconductor thing going on, which would fall in one of your portfolios. And, Delhi and Washington issuing that joint statement on semiconductor collaboration. How close are you to actually getting a deal here? And do you actually have the resources to partake in this?
Oh, absolutely. So if you look at the Indian market and you compare vis-a-vis what is required for a good semiconductor industry. First, very good talent pool. We have 52,000 semiconductor design engineers working in India. 52,000. That is about 23% of the global semiconductor workforce, right? And we are adding 85,000 more semiconductor engineers over the next 10 years. We have already tied up with about 73 universities and institutions where the course curriculum has been redesigned, very focused courses on technical courses on semiconductor manufacturing, semiconductor design. So that's the first. Second, right. Electronics manufacturing is today close to $90 billion industry. $10 billion will be the smartphone exports this year. So there is a huge demand within the country itself. Third is very stable set of policies. And we have, apart from the CapEx investment subsidy that the country would be giving, incentives that the country would be giving, there is a natural pull and we have spoken to the entire ecosystem of the chemicals, of the gases, of all the associated
right.
supply chain ecosystem which is needed, and everybody is willing to come to India, and very soon we should be having the first few decisions announced.
Minister, the budget was overshadowed by the fallout of the Adani Group. Is there a sense that fallout could impact India's growth, India's infrastructure, given that the Adani Group is pretty much synonymous with that growth and infrastructure?
So India has a very broad spectrum of infrastructure companies. If you look at the top 40 companies, I'm sure you would certainly find very good companies in the country. So I think whatever blip is there on the stock market and whatever the on the stock market is not going to affect the overall economy. I'm very sure of that. There is a very broad-based infrastructure set of group of companies which are good at construction, which are very good at execution, which are very good at
right.
providing that quality of construction which is needed for taking country to the developed nation status in 2047.
How is the government assessing the allegations made by the Hindenburg research? How are you assessing that?
So it's not for me to comment on that. We have a very robust regulatory system in the country where the regulators would be doing all that assessment. It's improper for me to comment on it.
What about overall when we look at, let's say, the green targets of the country? Adani Group is so locked tightly with that. There are not that many other companies which are working so closely. So there's got to be some sort of contagion for some of the government's targets here.
Absolutely not. As I said, there are multiple number of very good companies which are focused on execution, and if you look at the entire thought process of the government is basically maintaining a very healthy debt to GDP ratio. For example, the central government's debt to GDP ratio is like about 54%. That's a very healthy, if you look at all the major developed economies or the richer countries, richer geographies, it's maintaining a very tightly executed borrowings program. So the borrowing has remained almost stable at 16 trillion Indian rupees. Most of the borrowings are from the Indian market itself, so there is no a big risk of foreign exchange flowing out and country getting into trouble. The forex reserves are at very healthy position, close to 550, 570 billion US. The capex program, the control on inflation, very focused consumption towards vulnerable, all these things, the macro picture for the country is today very healthy.
Minister?
I can see
Minister.
that the growth story that you saw in the previous fiscal is going to continue in the coming years.
Thank you so much for joining us, Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw.